Welcome to Zen Doodles 3 with Mrs. I. We're going to be working on trying to finish up the project that we started. So we're going to try a couple more of the Zen Doodles. And right now, what I'm doing is I am just making little bubbles, kind of. So I'm making a half circle, and then I'm shadowing, or another Zen Tangler that I like to watch, his name is Mr. New. So if you look up art with Mr. New, he's a good one, but he calls it making an aura. So just doing that shadow, or doing this, repeating that same shape, kind of on top of the next one, making a shadow or an aura. And what I like to do after that is I like to maybe just add a little bit more interest to it by coloring in the smallest spots, the like the first, what everything is shadowed after. So I like to just do that to add a little bit more color and more interest and more texture, more variety to my Zen tangle. All right, next, what I'm going to be doing is I am making a square. There's a lot of cool things you can do with squares. Some of the YouTube tutorials just have squares that you make your design in. And what this is I'm making 8 triangles out of my square. So I cut my box into 4, and then I make diagonals in the box. And then I start at the inside corner and kind of just trace and keep going to the middle of the triangle, and that kind of makes a cool shape that looks like a kind of like a flower, I think, a square flower, if there is such a thing. And then I was just filling in that little triangle with something, just some shading. No, this one is one of my favorites. I love this. What you do is you make little dots, or little circles, I should say, all over your area that you want to fill. And then you do the next layer. So you do a shadow or an aura around that. But then what you want to do is you want to look to where those shadows or auras will meet, and then kind of connect those so that you have connections going in to those. Now, I don't think I have it in this, and then I just kind of fill in kind of shadow or put auras in the spaces. I'm not sure if I put it in this video. I did do it on my final piece, but I did color in the center of the circles just because I thought it, again, added more texture and a little more interest to the piece. All right, so here, what I'm doing is I am making these cool little mushroom shapes, or cherries. I think they kind of look like cherries too. They look 3-dimensional, but they're super easy to do. You just make that stem, so 2 lines for the stem, kind of do a curved shape at the end of that, and then make a circle around it. And what I try to do to add some even more depth to it is have some that are going behind and some that are and have the ones that are already there are in front. So that adds even just a little more depth to it. I didn't do this, but I could add some shading to it as well. It's shading to the actual cherries or mushrooms. Right now I'm just adding a little background texture. I'm just doing some just lines going in one direction, just because I think it makes those shapes stand out a little bit, and again, adds color and texture to the piece. I did something similar with triangles, where you kind of had triangles that, same thing, have triangles on a stem, and I thought that was kind of fun too. All right, so again, I've cut my space a little bit just to kind of help me just make it more interesting, and be able to add more designs. This is kind of almost like a firework pattern. You start with a kind of a dot, or you could start with the stem of the dot and have a pattern that goes out from a central space. And so you can make them any size or shape, and you can fill in any blank spaces that you think look, but it's a little bit airier, and I think that's kind of a fun look. All right, and then this, what I'm doing is I'm just filling in a space. So I'm just making little tiny circles. And I'm just going through and making those circles just to, I don't know, it adds some, again, color and texture to that. All right. Now this is kind of a fun thing to do too. What I'm doing is I'm filling in this kind of skinny space with circles. And so I'm just making the circles go from edge to edge. And then at the top here, I don't quite have enough for a full circle, so I'm doing just kind of a goofy one. Then I'm making circles within the circles. And then I'm gonna put a center in those circles, in the center circles. I'm gonna put just a dot and make kind of a flower petal design with those. And now it's kind of small to see, but there's little petals in that. I probably should have made the circles, the inner circles, a little bit bigger so you could see more detail. And this one I'm just doing kind of a half circle. And then I'm filling in the spaces around the petals of that, just to kind of set those off a little more. And some of these are a little tougher, it's harder to see because they're pretty small. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna color in the edges. And so just to, again, to make that stand out a little bit more. It's fun when your piece has lots of different shades, I guess. So this makes it a little, shades it in a little bit more. And I'm trying to kind of smooth out some of those edges a little bit. Well, that's what we're going to do for today. So I'll see you tomorrow where we finish up our design. I'm super excited to see what you all come up with. Have a great day, everybody.